Hi everybody and welcome to Barefoot TV, an online TV program which provides you with easy access to knowledge, wisdom and guidance from experts, leaders and spiritual advisors to support you in transforming, growing and connecting with love, soul and spirit in your everyday lives. I am your host, Leanne, the Barefoot Medium. I'm an international medium, twin flame, transformational coach and author. And I am absolutely passionate about reconnecting people with their loved ones who've passed over, guides and their intuition, as well as providing access to practical knowledge, guidance, tools and techniques you can use in your everyday lives to shift through any limiting beliefs, stories, emotions, sabotage patterns and fears that are holding you back and keeping your dreams as an intangible, vague idea of what it is you want to have, be and do in life. Now kick off your shoes, sit back, relax and enjoy this episode where I'm joined by David Essel, a best-selling author, counsellor and life coach who has helped hundreds and thousands of people to get clear and straight in the world of dating, giving them the best chance ever to attract the love of their life into their life. Now, David has been a guest with me before on Barefoot Radio talking about letting go of emotional baggage, so I'm so blessed to have him back on the show. David is here again to talk to us about his new book, a romance novel, Angel on a Surfboard, a mystical romance novel that explores the keys to deep love, which is filled, I believe, by beautiful surprises around true love, and it's fun and it's sexy in amongst it. So welcome, David.
Leanne, it's so great to be back with you. And just to stay in form, I want to let you know and all of your listeners that I've taken my shoes off. I am barefoot right now.
Awesome.
And I'm part of the barefoot community. So there you go.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's just great to see you and great to be back on with you.
Yeah, and I know that we just talked about, let's just dive into the topic of deep love, what that means, what it looks like, and what the keys are to that. Let's give viewers some really good ideas to be looking at their relationships and how they're connecting in the world.
Yeah, and Leanne, you know, the book that you mentioned, Angel on the Surfboard, it's the first true romance novel I've ever written. And you know, I like you and I are so similar. Like you, I've been a searcher my whole life, and I will continue to be a searcher, you know, and my beliefs change over the years. And what I believed 25 years ago, a lot of it I don't believe at all today. And so I think, you know, the audience that you attract are the same type of people as you and I, right? Is that we have people searching for answers for love and finances and their health and all this stuff. And when I wrote this book, it was the most unique experience, and I write about it in the preface, where I went to Hawaii to speak to a large corporation, and I decided, because I had never been there, that I was going to spend 3 weeks, a week on Oahu, a week on Maui, and a week on Kauai. And so the very first week I'm on Maui, and I do my presentation. I came in like on a Thursday. I spoke on Friday. I was done. And I went to the beach. I went to the where the hotel pool is and the beach, and I just sat down. And I always have tablets of paper with me because I love to either take notes to remind myself of what I want to do. And I started writing. And the thing that really shocked me was at the end of the first day, I'd written about 6 hours long at the pool. And it's all handwriting, longhand, right? I had my legal pad, my pen, you know, Leanne. And I went up to my room, and I'm looking at a complete legal pad filled with this story that I had never written an outline for. You know, whenever you write a book, you have to have an outline. You know, whenever you write a book where there's characters, you have to do character biographies, right? You should. So that you can get an idea of where the hell the story's going and what it's going to include. None of that happened. Yeah. And so when I went up to my room and I'm reading through these, 100 pages of writing, I called a buddy of mine out in Seattle, one of my best friends, and I said, hey, listen, the weirdest thing just happened today. I was at the pool for 6 hours. I think I just wrote most of a book. And I said, but can I read some of it to you? Because I don't even know if it makes sense, if it's fun, I don't even know where it came from. Now, you know this, better than or equal to anyone in the world, Leanne. This is called being channeled through, right? Like when you're truly channeled through, there's no effort, there's no work. You are just absorbing the love of the universe, of God, whoever it is that you believe in, and you're allowing them to come through and write. And I'm getting chills right now as I tell this story, because at the end of reading this certain amount to my friend Lee, he was dumbfounded and he said, I don't know where that's coming from, but don't stop it. And then the next thing that happened was really interesting. So it is a mystical romance novel where Sandy Tavish, who's the lead character, he's actually a journalist that went to Hawaii for a vacation. And he's at the pool and he's been thinking about writing, but he doesn't know what he's going to write about. And all of a sudden, this 70-year-old retired surfer walks by him on the beach and he turns to him and he goes, hey, great that you finally came out to the islands to write that book that's been percolating inside you. And Sandy looks up and goes, do I know you? And the surfer goes, well, now you do. And he goes, well, how do you know that there was a book percolating inside? Like, those are my words. I've never told anyone I had a book percolating inside. I've used that word 1,000 times. And this retired surfer says to him, hey, don't worry. I know why you're here, even if you don't. Follow my lead. And at the end of our time together, you will have one of the most compelling books on love ever written. And I'm going to help you and I'm going to guide you, but you're the one that has to do the work. And so what we find out is Sandy takes on this role of, now all of a sudden he realizes he's supposed to be writing a romance novel. He starts to meet different men and women that all give him a key to deep love. And the very first one that I want to talk about today is that, and this is a mistake most of us make in love. So Sandy's at the pool and there's this pool attendant, a woman that sells suntan lotion and towels and all this kind of stuff, you know, underwater cameras, right? Like, you know, the typical tourist hotel. And she's very attractive. And she says to Sandy on the second day he's there, she says to him, hey, come over here for a minute. I realize you're the man I've always been waiting for. And I want you to come over tonight for dinner. I'm going to make dinner. I'm going to have a bottle of wine because you are who I want. And Sandy is like going, oh my God, you know, in his mind, he's going, this is what every man wants to have happen. But when it happens, he goes, I'm scared as can be. I'm going to go to this woman's house. She's very attractive. I don't know anything about her. She says, I'm the one, like, let me go find out. So he goes, and within the first couple minutes of their conversation, well, first she opens the door and she has nothing on but heels, basically. Okay, wow. So then he goes, okay, now I'm really in trouble, right? He's talking to the audience going, well, now I'm just really, really under the rug here, because how am I going to resist having sex with this woman who looks so gorgeous and she said that I'm the one for her? Like, how can I refuse it? But he says to her, how long have you been single? And she says, 3 days. 3 days ago, I kicked this sorry excuse of a boyfriend out of here, and now I'm ready for the real thing. Now I'm ready for deep love. Now, Leanne, as a side note, this is where most of us make the gravest mistakes in love.
Yeah, and I love how you talk about that, because one of the things I've been working with a lot of clients on at the moment is around stepping in and out of relationships, and whether you've got that pattern of getting out of one and into another. And I call them relationship hoppers.
Exactly.
And it's like, wow, have you even cleaned up the mess or the stuff from your previous relationship, or like we talked about in the last episode of Barefoot Radio, your emotional baggage around that, or are you bringing it into that next one? So I love how you talk about that, and people just not being willing to take the responsibility or spend the time going within, looking at the patterns, looking at what was there, why it unfolded the way it did, what your responsibility was within it, because there's two people in a relationship. It's never just one person's part. It's both people playing a part in the dynamic. That's right. I love how you talk about that.
Yeah. And you know, we most of us make the mistake, and we're not doing it consciously. Like if we were living in consciousness and we just ended a marriage or a relationship, I don't care if the relationship was 6 months long or a year long or 25 years long. Most of us are not conscious, Leanne. You know, we immediately say, well, and especially women, unfortunately, there's this huge pressure on women to be in love, to be in a relationship. You know, men don't have that pressure, but men have other pressure, like you got to make a lot of money if you're going to be a worthwhile partner. You know, like we have our own shit. You know, men have their own crap that we have to deal with. But both men and women, the similarity that we talk about in the book is that it's almost identical. I mean, how many men do you know that at the end of a relationship will take a year off to heal? How many women will take a year off and work with a counselor, a coach, you know, someone that understands love to remove the resentments, the insecurities, the codependency, the stuff that you and I talked about last time? Most of us don't want to do the work. We don't want to take responsibility. So we use a relationship as a positive distraction from doing the work. And I say positive distraction. It's not that it is positive, but it allows us to escape reality.
And it's really a sabotage pattern.
Big time.
That puts you back into the same relationships and you keep attracting it. And, you know, I love that you talk about that, you know, and we all have stuff that comes up from time to time, and, you know, we move through our own healing journeys, and there's often limiting beliefs that come up or stories that come up at different times for you to heal. And if you're not conscious of it, you're not present to it, and you're just in this new relationship trying to make it work from your old space.
That's right.
You're going to create the exact same thing, no matter what you do, no matter what your intentions are, because you've got that baggage there. You've got those triggers there. And it's really going, you know what, how can I take responsibility for my own healing? It's never about the other person.
That's right.
Never.
That's right. And what we want to do with this book, Angel on a Surfboard, is give these tips out there, because we wrote it in a very fun, exciting, exotic, erotic way, but the message is very powerful. And so Sandy, and Mandy is this girl that invites him over to her house. Sandy is in there. She's butt naked, basically. And she's saying, you're the man. And he wants her physically. And she hands him a glass of wine and grabs his hand and walks him to the bedroom. And she lays down on the bed, and you're going, oh, this guy's done. He's, you know, he what man can resist this, right? Basically a naked woman, you know, laying on bed saying, I want you who I choose. And he says to her, are you really ready for deep love? And she said, yes, because I've proven I am by leaving an unhealthy relationship. And he says, well, that's step one. But you need more time. And you need to look in the mirror and see what you did that created the chaos, as well as your former lover. And when you're ready, I'll be here, but it's not tonight. And with that, she goes into this little hissy fit, you know, like trying to convince him, and then all of a sudden she stops and she starts crying. And she says, you're right. I'm not ready. And he gets up and he kisses her on the forehead, and he said, I'll see you more. But not in the way that we had intended. And when he leaves, and of course the next day, you know, or that night, he gets back to the hotel room, and the surfer has left him a voicemail that says, great job, Sandy. That is awesome. Now you're starting to understand the power of the correct way to get into a love relationship. You could have had sex with her, but you didn't. Good job, my man. Now listen to this, Leanne. Sandy starts going, how the hell did he know I was with her? How did he know I didn't have sex? How did he know that I walked out and held my ground? And as we find out through the story, this retired surfer is this mystical angel sent to earth to teach us about deep love.
And
you know?
I love that concept from a spiritual perspective as well. It's just, and we do, if we connect to our own intuition and our own inner guidance, or our angels or God or spirit or universe or whoever it is you want to call it, we all have access to that deep knowing about what love feels like and looks like and sounds like for us. And it's just getting all that crap out of the way and really allowing yourself to have it, and really getting yourself in the space where you're ready to receive it.
That's right. Leanne, something you and I talked about last time that I want to bring up again, and this is the greatest hurdle for men and women that to face to do love correctly, is that mass consciousness, women's magazines, romance novels, articles on the internet, posts on Facebook of people talking about, how amazing love is. And the reason we're here is to experience love with another person, and love makes the world go round, and all this other kind of stuff. And it sounds so seductive that it's one of the reasons why people bed hop, as you say. It's one of the reasons why, because, when a relationship ends and they look around and they have the fantasy from the romance novels and the glamour magazine articles and all this other kind of crap saying that if you're of this age, and it's usually over 25, if you're a woman over 25 and you're not in a relationship, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, you're so right.
Right? And so in the book, what we wanted to do is pick these really heavy topics of jumping from one to another. And like what Mandy said, I'm ready for deep love because I left a relationship that was unhealthy. Now, that part of her statement is accurate, 100% accurate. But what she didn't do then is follow it up with, I left an unhealthy relationship and I'm taking the next year off to understand myself, to look at the patterns that I created in love in the past and to shatter those patterns.
Yeah.
But mass consciousness is so powerful. I mean, God, people go and buy cars all the time they can't afford. Why? Mass consciousness. Yeah. People will go on the keto diet and lose 30 pounds in 30 days and then gain back 45 pounds 90 days later. Why? Because of all the ads on social media saying you can lose 30 pounds in 30 days on the keto diet. So we've got to be very careful about what we buy into. And in the world of love, it's really seductive, and that's no pun intended. It's very seductive to be fearful of being alone, to feel you're missing out when you're alone, instead of looking at, I need this to revive myself after the end of the last relationship. I need to learn about the mistakes I made in choosing that partner or staying too long. Does that make sense?
It does. And the two words that are popping up for listeners and viewers to really reflect on, I guess is the word, is desperation and loneliness. So that's often what creates the relationship hopping or the bed hopping or the whatever it might be. And really getting present to yourself and going, am I stepping into this relationship out of loneliness or desperation, as in I want, because you're too scared to be on your own and to be with you? The reality is, for everybody watching, you come into the world alone, you go out alone.
That's right.
And everything external, and I said this to a client yesterday, everything external of you can be removed from you. So where does the feeling of love, deep love that you're talking about, or caring or nurturing or safety or security come from, or worthiness come from? It doesn't come from a person that you're in connection with. It doesn't come from the home that you have. It doesn't come from the money in your bank account or the size of your dress size or your waist size or whatever it might be. It comes from within. Yeah. And if you cannot give yourself the time, the energy, and the space to connect with you and find out what it feels like for you and get into that, then you're going to keep attracting the same relationships back into your life that are not based on deep love. They're based on loneliness and desperation.
Absolute neediness. The words you're using are all the same: loneliness, neediness, desperation.
Yeah.
And the word that we use with our clients is that you are codependent to the concept of love. You're not an independent woman. You're not an independent man because you're following society's ideas. Your girlfriends that will say to you, "You're such a perfect catch. How can you be single?" When you hear that, unless you have incredible high self-esteem and self-confidence, you go, "Yeah, I need to be in a relationship." Instead of slowing it down and saying, I need to actually take some time. My last 3 relationships have sucked, or my last 10, or whatever it is, So I need to pull back and become an independent woman, meaning that my friends and my family can tell me 1,000 times I'm the greatest catch in the world. How am I single? And I can look back at them and say, I'm single because I'm choosing to be single.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of power, Leanne, in those words. I'm choosing to take this time off because, quite frankly, my last 2 relationships didn't work, and I need to find out why.
Yeah.
That's very logical. But when we look at comparing emotion of love with logic in love, emotion trumps logic all the time until someone watches you and I talking. We are destroying the ridiculous nonsense that you need to be in a relationship to have validation as a worthwhile human being. We're taking all that emotional crap out of it and we're speaking logically.
Yeah.
And it is, and we need the emotion, of course. You need the emotion to go, "Oh my God, I'm so excited to see you today. That's beautiful." But then we need the logic to say, I'm really turned on by you, and I think you're gorgeous or handsome or attractive, but I really need to take this time down. And that's what Sandy in the book found himself doing. And it shocked the heck out of him, Leanne. He didn't even know he had this kind of strength. Yeah. And he walked away feeling so good about himself. Now, if someone wants to go meet someone tonight and have sex with them, I'm not judging them. I don't care. That's up to you. Go do it. Go have fun. I don't care. Wear protection, but have fun. If that's the space you are in life, or that's the place you are. But if you desire deep love, that's what this novel, Angel on the Surfboard, is for. It's not the Tinder group. Nothing against Tinder. It's not the Tinder swipe left, have sex tonight group. This is for people that are saying, it would be really great if I learned the correct laws of love, the rules of love, and got it right next time.
Yeah.
Anyone can slow down, read our book, and understand it. Then it's about putting it into practice.
Yeah. And I love how you talk about that because, there's so many people that say, I want a deep, long-term, committed relationship, yet they are on Tinder, they are doing the bed hopping, whatever that might look like, sound like, feel like for them, and that's okay. It's just about going get honest with yourself. And I think that's a really big key in relationships.
It is.
Not just with others, but with self. And that has to start with yourself and getting honest about your own crap and getting honest about what it is you desire.
Yeah.
And if you're taking actions that are the exact opposite of what you're asking for or what you desire, then you're not being honest. And, just come back and go, okay, is the relationship hopping and the bed hopping and all of that what I really want right now? Great, if that's what you want. Just get honest and clear and aim for that. Put that intention out there and be clear.
Leanne, perfectly said. If you are claiming to your friends and your family and your relatives and your coworkers that you're really ready for deep love, but you're screwing around, you're doing friends with benefits, you're doing those two things, say that it's oxymoronic in nature. You can't say I want deep love and be bed hopping. Okay, that's oxymoronic. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But worse than anything, you are shattering your own integrity.
Yeah.
Integrity says we walk our talk.
Yeah.
And so if you're talking a great game about how you're ready for deep love, but you're dicking around, no pun intended, then obviously you're not, and something else just popped into my head that I want to share. I've been a counselor and a life coach for 30 years. And we probably have about 70% of our clients are women because that's about the percentage that come to counseling.
Yeah.
30% are men, but we're seeing an increase. But here's one of the things that I have to work with women on all the time. I'll say to a woman, well, you say you want deep love and you say you're ready and you say you've done the books, read the books, done the workshops and all that kind of stuff, but you're going from one relationship to another, which tells me that you have a fear of being alone.
Yeah.
Their response is, are you kidding me? I love being alone. And I'll say, okay, let's do this. Let's do an experiment. For the next 6 months, let's not date. On Friday and Saturday nights, let's not drink or smoke or eat or do anything else that distracts you from feeling what it's like to really be alone on a Friday and Saturday night. Yeah. Now, if you follow that advice that I just gave, you will know in a short period of time if you're happy being alone or not. Because a lot of people that say they're happy, they're drinking on Friday and Saturday nights, so or they're doing 20,000 Netflix movies in a row to distract themselves from what's going on inside their heart and soul, Leanne, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I really love that because it's about, if you don't like your own company, if you don't enjoy your own company, how can someone else in connection with you, in relationship with you, enjoy your company as well? If you don't know what you love to do, what brings you joy and happiness in life, what it looks like, sounds like, feels like for you, and it doesn't matter. It might be watching Netflix. It might be having a glass of wine and a beautiful dinner. It might be going and exploring different places and hiking or whatever. But if you don't know that about yourself, then you get swallowed up in a relationship and you get pulled into what someone else loves and enjoys, and you lose yourself in a relationship.
100%. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is called being codependent in love.
Yeah.
The independent person takes the time to learn what really works for them and what doesn't. The independent person at the end of 30 days has the strength to say, you know what, boy, this started out hot, but I'm noticing some things that don't work for me. So it's been really great knowing you, but I think I'm going to, keep looking. Like, that's a very strong independent person. They're not pointing the finger and saying you're a jerk and they're just going, there's some things that aren't working. And so I think it's best that we just not see each other anymore. That's just an independent person, So in the book, Angel on the Surfboard, we talk about this concept of, you're ready for love when you leave an unhealthy relationship and take the time to figure out what you've brought to previous relationships that don't work. Mm. And then, another really cool experience that Sandy has is that he's walking down the beach and he sees 1,000 people on the beach of Waikiki, and they're in a big circle, and in the middle of the circle is this guy giving surfing lessons. So Sandy's walking on the outside, and he bumps into this woman. We find out her name is Jen. Jen is a retired women's surfing champ. And so they get into a conversation, and Jen says to Sandy, what are you doing here? He goes, well, actually, I'm on the islands exploring the keys to deep love. And Jen gives him this look, and she goes, that's crazy. He goes, what do you mean? She goes, men are dogs. Men aren't worth the time. And she said, and by the way, I've also dated women, and it's the same thing. Love and relationships just stink. It doesn't matter if you're with a guy or a girl. And so Sandy pulls back and goes, wow, Jen, you sound a little jaded. And she says, well, I'm just speaking the truth. And so she says, can you handle the truth to Sandy? And Sandy says, yes, I can. And she goes, okay. She says, go ahead and rate me. R-A-T-E, rate me on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you think I am attractive-wise? Do you think, and so she goes, and did you notice my big breasts? And do you notice this? And so she's egging Sandy on, right? So Sandy looks at her and says, I know where you're going with this, but let me give you an answer. You're a 9. And she says, really? So you're going to judge me on my physical appearance and say I'm a 9? And he said, yes, that's what you asked me. You asked me that. And she goes, okay, Sandy. And then she drops her towel, and we find out that Jen has a very serious physical handicap that was hidden by the towel. And she says, now, Sandy, judge me. Rate me. And he says, Jen, 9.5. He said,
wow.
He said, I know where you're going with it. I'm not buying it. And so as he talks to her, he says, you know, one of the keys to being in a great relationship is to be able to let go of the past, the jadedness against people. And he said, why do you feel this way about men and or women? And she said, I've been with men that were very attracted to me because of my physical beauty. But after a month or two, when they continue to see my physical handicap, they leave. And so I don't trust men, Sandy. And he says, Jen, there's a way around that. And that is when you truly love yourself, you will find that that handicap is not a handicap anymore. And you will attract people who don't see that as a handicap either. And it was this beautiful exchange, Leanne, on the beach where, you know, she cries and he holds her because she realizes she had become so jaded and cynical about love and relationships that the only people she's going to attract are people who are jaded and cynical and aren't healthy people. Yeah. And it was this mind-blowing experience in the book, Leanne, where that Sandy learned so much too, because before going through this little expression and conversation with Jen, if he saw someone with a handicap like her, he probably wouldn't have been attracted to talk to her.
Yeah.
So he learned something about himself, right? That he needs to watch his judgment of others. And the moral of this part of the book is, do not get hung up on the physical appearance of what your soul person might look like, your love partner might look like, because if you can drop that, you might be surprised at who you truly fall in love with. Yeah. It's a great part of the book.
And I want to pick up on a few things that you've said in amongst that, David. And, you know, I think it's really important that letting go of the past and not bringing it back in. And what that takes is a huge amount of, for self, first and foremost, compassion and forgiveness.
Yes.
And, you know, I was just talking to a few people this week about compassion and forgiveness. And, you know, it was something that came up for me that I had to learn and grow more in. And it's, you know, I feel like I'm a compassionate and forgiving person. And then I went, okay, there's an opportunity here for me to grow more of that.
Yeah.
For self.
Yeah.
And forgive the past and let it go. And to then look at the other person and look at holding them in a place of compassion and forgiveness. But you cannot do that until you've worked on you, first and foremost.
Leanne,
so I love how you bring that in. And I feel like that's the step a lot of people miss. And they bring that resentment, that anger, that hurt, and they drag it. You know, I'm seeing that big suitcase or big bag of, you know, potatoes kind of thing, but drag it into a relationship, and you're kind of dumping that on the other person as well. And then vice versa.
That's right.
If they're bringing that in. So I love that.
Yeah.
And you're talking about judgments. It brings into, you know, we're here to love ourselves more in reality, and we're in connection and relationship with ourselves first and foremost. And how much we accept or judge ourselves is often reflected in our relationships. So I love how you talk about that judgment from a physical perspective, but it's also about, you know, lots of other things that particularly women and men bring into relationships around not accepting parts of themselves.
That's right. It takes a very secure person to be able to look deeply at these areas that you and I are discussing and to say, wow, I have a lot of insecurity around money. Yeah. And I judge people about money, and I feel I'm not worthy because I don't make enough money. Or my body size. I'm too thin. I'm too, you know, it's really interesting too, because as long as I've been in this work, I remember about 20 years ago, I got a client, and of course, we get a lot of people that book online, and I didn't know who the person was. And I'd say about 70% of our sessions are via Skype, just like this, or phone, because we work with people from all over the world. And this happened to be some new client, a woman that came into my office. So I went downstairs and met her. And she looked pretty familiar. I couldn't ring a bell. I'm trying to think, how the heck do I know this person?
Mm-hmm.
And she had given a fake name. And so when she came into the office, I kept looking at her and she goes, you know who I am, don't you? And I said, well, you know, I'm getting a pretty good clue of it. She goes, I'm not Samantha Smith. I said, I know you're not Samantha Smith. And she was a supermodel that was on the cover of 40 magazines. I mean, really famous, really, really put together in her beauty. But one thing I noticed is that she was outrageously thin. I mean, thinner than most models are. And a lot of models get, you know, chastised because of their thinness. But this woman was really much even thinner than what looked healthy. She wore a lot of baggy clothes at first. And then she rolled up her arms. And right away, I knew why she was here. She said to me, and this, again, this is a huge part of our book, Angel on the Surfboard. She said, David, you know, I've been on all these magazine covers. I have people telling me every day I'm gorgeous, that I'm beautiful, that I'm the most blah, 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 blah in the world. And she says, you know what I'm suffering from, don't I? And I said, well, I'll tell you, the foundation is low self-confidence and low self-esteem that's being manifested as anorexia.
Yeah.
And she said, you're right.
Yeah.
And she said, how the heck can this happen? How can someone who is celebrated, flown all over the world, people see me in airports and drop down and ask for, how the heck can I have such low self-confidence and low self-esteem? And I said, well, if we go a step deeper, it's called a lack of self-love.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're trying to control your body. You're trying to control the outside environment. You're so into control that you're losing that empathy, compassion, self-compassion, self-empathy, self-love. And Leanne, I swear to God, when she left the office, and I saw her a little while later, and she was going to actually go into a hospital because it had gotten that bad. But I told her, and we write about this in the book, I told her, I said, you know what? You going into the hospital is probably the first time you're loving yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and so when we look at the concept of love, you know, a mystical romance novel that explores the keys to deep love, so much of it is what you mentioned a minute ago, and it's about self-love. But let me give people a caution here. We have been fed so much nonsense by the personal growth industry that you can somehow affirm yourself to self-love. Like if you say the right affirmations, you know, I am in love with myself and I am a child of God and I think I'm beautiful. That's all BS. That's all nonsense, because the only way you can prove you love yourself is via your actions. It's not what you think. It's not what you say. Throw that crap out the window. Look in the mirror and write down how you love yourself or how you don't. Now, I'm going to give you guys a great personal example. For 30 years, I was a raging alcoholic and cocaine addict. Doing the work I'm doing right now as a counselor, an author, a speaker, everything else that you can imagine. I did not love myself, because you can't, I don't care how successful someone is, you cannot love yourself and have active addiction. Okay, that's called the opposite of self-love. Yeah. So the only way that I could say I truly love myself, and I believe today that I'm much closer than I was years ago, but I'm never going to BS you, Leanne, or your audience and say I totally love myself. I still have freaking insecurities. Yes. I still have my own crap I have to work with, right?
Yeah.
But one of the greatest examples that I ever gave to myself to prove I love myself was admitting my addiction and going in for help.
Yeah.
And that's self-love. You know, when you say, I can't get past my negative attitude, my judgmental attitude, my addiction to whatever it is in the world that you're dependent on, I am not loving myself. That is the first step to self-love.
And you know, I love that you bring all of that in, because, you know, the law of attraction, The Secret, those sort of things talk about the I am love and affirm it, and, you know, and yes, that has a place. That has a place. And if that's where you need to start, then start there. And I feel, you know, but the reality is, law of attraction, The Secret, that stuff, it's not just about what you say to yourself or your thoughts or the story you've got going in your head, because our subconscious plays out our story. And you have to be willing to dig in and go, okay, what's my love story? What are the stories that I'm telling myself? What's the emotions that are with it? Is it the loneliness, the desperation, the resentment, the hurt, the jealousy, the insecurities, the whatever? What's the story? And then you often subconsciously act them out and make them real. And that's the reality. And if you don't like what's being presented back to you, you have to come back and go, what's my love story? What are the actions I'm taking? How am I sabotaging this? It's all about that. And if you cannot do that, you're going to stay in that love story that you're really not enjoying.
I know.
And that's it.
It's so true. If someone says, you know, I truly love myself, and then I'll say, what were your last 2 or 3 relationships like?
Yeah.
And we find out that they stayed in a past relationship 10 years too long, 2 years too long, 6 months too long. And I'll say, you know, that's not a good example of self-love. Now, regarding affirmations, we believe, and we wrote this in the last book, our #1 bestseller, Focus, Slay Your Goals. We believe that about 20% of our success will come from how we think, meaning affirmations, journaling, meditation, etc. Right? We believe firmly in, like every day I spend the first hour of my day, gratitude, journaling, meditation, prayer, and more, you know, and affirmations, because I think it's important. But after that, just go and do the work you'd rather not do. Hire someone, walk into a counselor's office or a coach or someone that knows relationships and say, hey, listen, you know what? I haven't done all that great in the area of love. Can you help me figure out what the hell's going on? I mean, be brutally honest, right? Exactly. And in that way, someone can guide you, and hopefully through writing exercises where that you get a chance to write out your past relationships and own your role. Yeah. Were you the aggressor? Were you passive aggressive? You know, were you the one that was codependent and stayed too long? Did you enable them in their addictions? You're like, what's your freaking role, right? That is the opposite of self-love. And then you have something to work with, Leanne.
Yeah. And I love that because, you know, I'll put my hand up and say my old story was around staying too long and trying to make it work.
Yeah.
You know, and trying to fix. And so that was my pattern. That was my relationship story. And, you know, I'm really grateful to be able to see that and to be able to know that and go, okay, that was my pattern.
Right.
I'm not going to play that out anymore. And when it doesn't start feeling good, that's your red flag to go, hey, there's something not right here. There's something not working. You don't have to dig in and fix it unless you're both willing to sit down and have a conversation. And I talk about cleaning your house. You know, think about your home. Do you just leave things laying around? And there are people who do. And, you know, your house can often reflect how you are in relationship. Do you leave your washing all over the floor? And how long does it take you to clean out your fridge? Or do you leave something rotting in the back? You know, and that's how you address issues in your relationships. Have a think about that.
You know, everything you're talking about is self-love. You know, if you love yourself, you respect your environment, you respect your body, you respect your yard. You know, you keep if you have your home, you keep your yard clean, the grass mowed, the driveway shoveled, whatever's going on, you know. And that's all an act of self-love. Yeah. And so there's a lot of people, you know, it's funny, the response we've gotten already, just this really awesome response to the book. As a matter of fact, do you mind if I hold up cover?
No, go for it. And I am aware of time. We were on 30 minutes. We've gone 47, which I love. We can talk all day. So, yeah, for listeners, for viewers, you know, please check out David's book. It's amazing. Can you pop that up again and tell us where they can connect with you?
It's I don't know if you can, the shininess, angel on a surfboard. Can you see that?
Yep,
Angel
got
on a
it.
Surfboard. And it's available in Audible, Kindle, or print. So if you're an Audible person, we've got it on Audible for you. It's available at our website, which is talkdavid.com. TALKDavid.com. So go check out the book. And the other thing, Leanne, that I mentioned last time for your listeners that I want to mention again, we also offer a free video subscription that's 5 days a week long. It's called David Essel's Daily Video Boost. There's no cost at all. And when you sign up for it at talkdavid.com, every Monday through Friday, you get a free inspirational 3-minute video to start your day off. So if you want more inspiration, join the Daily Boost at talkdavid.com. And if you're looking for the keys to love written in a real mystical roller coaster romance novel, grab our book, Angel on a Surfboard.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much, David. And, I love how you describe things about relationships and how you connect with them, which is why, we love talking about this topic.
No, it's awesome.
For those of you who are wanting to connect further with me and clean up your love story or clean up your love house, then jump on my website, thebarefootmedium.com.au, and jump into some transformational coaching work where we can really dig in and get those patterns and things cleared out so that you can move into the love story that you really want. Thank you so much, David, for joining me. And I look forward to connecting with you again in the future. And please check out the book, Angel on a Surfboard. Thank you so much.